Welcome to AFI Fest 2020, presented by Audi. I'm Claudia Puig, Senior Programmer at AFI Fest. And first, I want to thank all of our supporters and our presenting sponsor, Audi, our AFI members, and you, our audience. Thank you all so much for joining us in this very special virtual edition of AFI Fest. We're here today with the director of the beautiful and compelling film, I Carry You With Me, Te Llevo Conmigo, director Heidi Ewing, and also one of the stars of the wonderful film, Armando Espitia. Welcome, Heidi and Armando. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I love the way the realism and the romanticism blend so beautifully in your epic film. It's just, you know, the idea of a decade-spanning love story that's looked at so lyrically and tenderly, and yet also very clear-eyed in its look at homophobia and immigration and the immigrant experience, and so gorgeously shot. It's just, it's such a wonderful experience. I just, thank you for your wonderful and emotionally resonant film.
Well, thank you for connecting with it and for showing it at AFI Fest, which has always been a very important and festival in my career. So thank you so much for showing it.
And Heidi, you've had a very illustrious, award-winning career in documentary filmmaking, and this is your debut narrative feature. How did you come up with the idea? I know that these are your real-life friends, Ivan and Gerardo, but how did you come up with the idea to make this into an actual narrative tale?
Well, the canon of documentary filmmaking that I'm engaged in is cinema verite, observational cinema. That's really sort of, I make films where things are happening on camera and the outcome is unknown. And so if I get there too late, I don't make historical films. I mean, I made one film about Norman Lear that was a biography, but that was sort of a special case. You know, I want to be there when things are taking place and occurring, and that is sort of what I do in the documentary space. And once I heard Ivan and Gerardo's story and started filming with them a little bit, I realized that basically I would be filming the third act of a movie, and that so many important milestones and dramatic occurrences and cross-sections of family and love and immigration had already happened. Really, the story starts when they're around 10 years old. And so since I don't do recreations and I don't do historical films, I realized that the best version of their story was not a documentary. The best version of their story required a fictionalized narrative treatment. And you use the word epic. It is an epic. It happens over so many years, and it's also a film about memory. And I think it's hard for documentary to capture the power and the triggering effect that memory has on human beings. And so I thought that the narrative was uniquely qualified for this particular story. And so I decided to go in that direction.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's hard to imagine how a documentary film could capture memories. That seems so ephemeral and hard to communicate. Armando, I'm guessing that you met the real Ivan before you started filming the movie?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't.
Oh, so
no, I finally got to meet him when we went to New York to shoot the second part of the film.
So what was that like, to meet him knowing you'd been playing him?
It was amazing because he's likable. He's a very nice guy. Yeah, it was kind of late in the process to feel the pressure of, I felt that the job was already done when I finally met him. And that's because of Heidi just guided me to work based on a character, not on a person. So
right.
That helps me a lot. And Ivan was very open with Heidi when first tell her their story to Heidi. So I thought it was the most respectful way for me to portray his life, not to be invasive with him. So he was already do all of podía hacer todo, ya había hecho lo que él podía con Heidi.
He'd already done what he could with you. Yeah. That makes sense. And then you wouldn't be constricted by the idea that I'm going to play this person. And then it's almost a caricature. You're playing your character as you see him. And I would think that probably is better.
And that is for me like an artistic process. It's vision, it's Heidi's vision and the script, and then my own vision, and all together build, I guess, a more rich character and with layers. Also, Ivan is not in the same stage of his life than the one I portray, and I truly believe we are changing, and we are evolucionando.
We evolve, yeah. No, it's good. We evolve, yeah.
So yeah, I was more focused on portray his younger version, which is not the relevant right now these days.
Well, you did a beautiful job. It's wonderful. Your performance was just so moving. Heidi, I wanted to ask you the last. I guess I was going to say the last third of the film, but it's kind of interwoven in the blending of documentary with the narrative, and you do it seamlessly. You integrate it all so well, but I imagine that that's hard to do, you know, of course you're doing it in a non-linear way, but still to kind of, how did you make it all seem as organic when you are going from the real characters to the fictional characters?
Oh, it was easy. No. It was, well, I have an amazing editor. Her name is Inat Sidi, and she's edited almost all my work in my career. And she was essential to finding a way that we could do something very unconventional that was, there aren't really references or comps for how we did it. So we couldn't really reach and look at past work for other people. And that was hard. It was also actually, you know, in a way it was freeing. And, you know, it was a 9-month edit. So basically, I was able to, I knew in advance I would need that kind of time, because the documentary in different versions of the film was early, it was throughout. In the end, I actually opted for a very small amount, and in the linear fashion that comes into the third act. So you actually catch up with the Ivan and Gerardo in their 40s in the end of the film, which seems logical, but I tried in a lot of different ways before that. So it was really an editing feat. And, you know, I think that, you know, some people don't even realize that they're looking at the real Ivan and Gerardo until the credits, because they just are invested in the story. And I think that's a testament to Armando's performance and Cristian Vazquez's performance, which is that you're so invested in the journey. There's so much at stake that you don't, okay, we've transferred their story to a different person, but you're so engaged in the story and what happens to them that you're not thinking, oh, the camera looks different and this material is kind of messy, and actually they don't look alike. They don't look very much alike. People just forget all of that because they are gripped by the time we do that change. And that's something that I was hopeful would happen, but you don't really know for sure. And so when we opened the film at Sundance, we realized that it was more or less a seamless transition. So we're very proud of that.
You should be. I was one of those people that was gripped. I didn't know. I try not to read about things too much before I watch them. So I had no idea. And then I read about it later and I was like, oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I love that. Some people figure it out. If people know that they're looking at a film that I made, you know, they know I make documentaries. So some people are like, wait a sec. But other people who don't are just like, okay, I'm here on this ride. Right. And the film is taking me somewhere and I'm going to go. Yeah. And that's what I love about audiences right now, is that because of the mixed media, because of movies like Tangerine and all the work that Steven Soderbergh and other filmmakers have done with technology and phones, and I think people have become very fluid in the way that they look at things. And I think if this film, you would have noticed more of these transitions maybe 15 years ago. But the way audiences experience film right now is very, very different. And I think that this film sort of represents that.
Absolutely. So Heidi, you speak Spanish, but did your Spanish get better while you were filming in Mexico? How hard is it to film in a country where that's not your native language? And
I don't know if we got better, but we got through. You know, I'm cierto punto, you're like, this is all I got. You know, I didn't even, at the beginning, I was learning all these new words and all these camera terms, and I didn't want my cinematographer to have to be thinking in English. He speaks English, but it's tiring to be communicating in a language that's not your own. So I would rather me be tired than everyone else be tired. You know, like I tried to speak Spanish to my cinematographer. I tried to speak Spanish to the actors because, you know, it's draining. Te quita energía, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I just would, sometimes my Spanish would be terrible. Like halfway through the day, I would be like, I don't, no sé cómo decirlo, pero bueno, me entiendes. It was just like, I'll try, you know.
Yeah.
I would be like, you know, and Armando would be like, he'd be like, no, I got it. Yeah, okay, okay, let's do another. I got it. Like I'd say like 3 words. He'd be like, yeah, all right.
Well, Armando speaks English too, so the two of you were able to communicate. But your Spanish is great, by the way. Your accent is wonderful. Armando, what was it like?
She's wonderful speaking Spanish. She, also, what it takes to be a good storyteller is your ability to communicate. And we developed this relationship of Heidi's looking at me or giving me a gaze, and I knew already what she wanted from me. So yeah, she was all the time trying to communicate some ideas with all her body and the language. So it was easy to understand her. Because yeah, she likes to communicate, and that's important. And it was easy. She did a great effort to speak with everybody in Spanish, and I feel you already forgot some Spanish, right? Because she was a different Heidi while she were in Mexico.
So you shot all over Mexico. Armando, were there places that you hadn't been to in your own countries? I know you're from Mexico City, like in Puebla and some of the other places.
I mean, every time you're shooting, you get to know the places in a different, special way, and you got to live in there. So it was a special experience for me to live in Puebla and the other places, also New York. And Hilotepec was beautiful. The first weeks in Hilotepec was beautiful.
Where is it again? Say it again.
Hilotepec.
Hilotepec.
En el Estado de México.
Sí, son como 2 horas de la Ciudad de México, and we were shooting Chiapas.
There's 2 hours outside of Mexico, she just said. Oh, Chiapas. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's beautiful how they portray our environments and our culture through those places. They choose them very well, I guess. The market and the people and the colors.
Yes, absolutely. That's where you see the documentary filmmaker or the cinema verite filmmaker in you, because those details are so rich, Heidi.
Well, sometimes like in the market, we just put him in a real market and we got everyone to agree, and he just went shopping and we filmed it, and I was so happy. I was really unhappy because it was too hard to shoot. I'm used to just, you go in, you know, and it was a different version of that, but still it was like, go shop for the ingredients for today's ensalada and we'll follow you. And I was like, that's, you know, so yeah, we tried to bring some of that realism into the film. And also, you know, I am a foreigner. I am a gringa. I am from outside. So I think that, I think Mexico is very beautiful in the movie. I think Mexican filmmakers, a lot of times, make their country focus on the negative and focus on the problems and the poverty. And I think that's normal. I think that American filmmakers do the same thing. You look at your own country with a very critical eye, and that's natural, that's correct. But I don't have that burden. I wanted to show the beauty of the country, and also these men are falling in love, and these men are leaving a place that is actually a very beautiful place. So it had to be Mexico at its best, because you're leaving that.
Yes, it's almost heightened.
Shores of New York, and you have to show that there's a lot to lose. There's a lot to lose. So I thought that was important visually.
Yeah, that comes across. You think about when you're leaving a place and when you're in love, everything is heightened. So you feel that. You feel their love for it, and yeah, that's really beautiful. I wanted to ask you, Armando, how the role of Ivan compares to other roles you played in terms of challenge, or what was the most challenging aspect of getting into the part of Ivan?
It's always the, it was the cooking.
You're not a
No,
cook?
seriously, I am.
Oh.
I actually am, but it, not with that discipline that they have in the kitchens, in the professional kitchens. It's that works as a hook for me. Like the profession side of my characters usually helps me to to get grounded with my characters, and yeah, that gives me another place to put my energy, not only in the emotions or the feelings or the story, so you can get yourself surprised by the emotions and the actions while shooting. But of course, the desert part was very difficult to shoot. Michelle was amazing, and I really suffered those days, because we shoot it in a few days, I guess, I believe. The desert part was very hard. And also, New York.
Yeah.
I understand a lot about immigration and living outside your home. Like in a very deep way. I always knew about those stories, and it happened to my family. So I knew, I grew up with that idea. But when I was in New York, I felt it. I knew, like I felt it in my body. The feeling of living somewhere, somewhere different to your place, and
Your home.
that feeling of being separated and being far away. And then Heidi put me to work with real people. Do you remember the car wash?
Claro. Sí.
I got a fellow actor working with me, but he was a worker there. And I got to hear his story, and in some other places in the kitchens. And so I got to know real people who have been through this situation, and it really moved me. And yeah, I guess that was a difficult part.
Yeah, I would imagine that
to
must have
play.
made a big impression. Yeah. And
It is. I remember that we were shooting a scene. I don't know if it's in the movie, I don't remember, but we were shooting a scene when my friend Sandra tells me that she's leaving New York and she's coming back to Mexico. And me as an actor, as the character, I got devastated that day, and I couldn't stop crying, remember?
Yes. Claro que está en la película. Cuando ella te dice que se va así.
Yeah.
And you guys were both very... Yes, I was crying that day because watching the two of you and thinking of the separation, this friendship, I was very, and so was Juan Pablo, the cinematographer. There are some times where you feel that it's real, and it's just, it's contagious. I could feel the pain of being left alone.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that, there's two lines in the movie that are said twice. So I wrote the film with Alan Page, and there's two times something is said a second time. So one is, "Tú puedes morir," you could die.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Gerardo says it to Ivan, and then Gerardo's mother says it to him. And the other line is, "Allá nos odian."
Mm-hmm.
And then,
they hate us over there. Yeah.
And they hate us there. And then she says, "They hate us here. Nos odian."
Mm-hmm.
So it's there. These are like, and that she says that. Now she has the experience. Aquí nos odian, and he doesn't respond. He ignores it because people don't always respond to what is said to them, and he has no answer for "they hate us here." He says, "Pero estás bien, everything's good." But I think it's what's not said in that scene is also very important. Sometimes you don't have an answer to the truth. And that was going on in that scene, and it was very touching.
Yeah, it was a very moving, and you could feel, because they'd been friends since they were children, and then they'd gone through the ordeal in the desert together, and they were so close, they were so bonded. You really felt it. Those lines really stood out, by the way. I remember that, you know, the puedes morir, you could die there. I mean, those really do make a powerful impression, and they're in no way a hyperbole or an overstatement. It's so true.
Well, those lines were written, you know, before the current situation, and I think that they take on a different feeling now. Everything in the movie feels different now. That in the moment we're living in, everything's heightened. So yeah, I think that's part of it.
How closely did you adhere to the real story of Ivan and Gerardo? Because you knew them well, you knew their story. I was wondering about some of the details, like the quinceañera dress and things like that. Did you add to things, or were those based on their real memories?
It's a mix. I would say 85% of the film adheres to what they told me. The dress, that happened, but he was discovered by his uncle, not by his father. And he did not leave her in the desert to die. He stayed with her. He didn't even think about leaving. But I mean, most things are absolutely, you know, I stuck to the story. You know, Sandra, her real name is Susana, and they were very good friends, and they crossed it as they were not friends as children. So, you know, a lot of things were invented just to sort of keep, you know, the glue together.
Sure.
But I'd say 85%, yeah, was what happened. Everything dramatic in the movie that happens, everything dramatic happened, which is unusual, because usually it's the other way around. Like the biggest things, you can ask me any big moment, it happened. So everything else was sort of glue.
How did Ivan and Gerardo feel when they first saw it? I'm assuming they have already seen it.
Oh yeah, they've seen it many times.
Yeah.
I showed it before Sundance, but not until it was done. I didn't show it to them until it was done. I mean, almost done. And they were patient. They didn't read the script. They trusted me. And they were not involved in the casting. At some point, there had to be a separation. Like once I went to Mexico, like you have to just do the work and not be tormented by what are they going to think. You have to let it go. You have to take control, and you have to do the movie. And they respected that. And they were dying of curiosity. But they also knew I had to focus. So they saw it. What did they think? They were in shock. I mean, I don't know what it's like to see yourself portrayed by someone else and then see yourself. I don't know what that feels like. They were in shock. They were in shock, like there was nothing. I mean, they had to absorb it. They had to. So then we saw it again a couple of weeks later. We went to a theater. My friend has a theater. We watched it properly on a big screen in the dark so they could feel it. And then they started getting used to it. But I would say they weren't, how can you prepare yourself? Now they love it. They love the movie. but they were just like, how could they imagine what it was going to be like, you know?
Very true. How did you decide to tell the story in the particular nonlinear way you did with the flashbacks and the flash forwards? Were you always envisioning it that way, or did that come about in the editing process?
No, the memory, the way memory was treated was always in the script, or at least it was, that was always central to the movie. That was something that was hard to figure out exactly when to put those memories, but I knew that they were going to just be triggered by something that was said or happened. So I tried to use the memories in the way that I feel that human beings process memories. And sometimes memories are like not accurate, or they're heightened, or things don't make sense, and you're not really sure if they have, like, memories are, you know, are narratives that we tell ourselves that have a kernel of truth, but we never remember things as they happen. And as someone who makes documentaries, I'm pretty sure that's true. So I tried to make the flashbacks somehow a little bit surreal, a little bit snippets, and one thing is said and they're short. I filmed them much longer, but I realized, like, that's just not how, when you like float away for a few seconds, you're not there very long before you come back. And so I tried to reproduce that in the film. And I am a big fan of nonlinear storytelling when it works, because life isn't really linear. I mean, it's just not how we think. It's not how I live my everyday. It's just, it's a peripatetic brain that we have. So I was always trying to sort of figure that out in the edit. But it was always a very important part of the story. The story it's also how they remember their past. This is what they told me, because that's how they remembered it. So they had a memory that is probably a little fuzzy. They told it to me. I interpreted the memory. And so what I do know is they did meet at a place called Bar Franco. It was in Puebla. It burned down. It's gone. There was a laser pointer. And there was a lot of flirtation. And that's what they remember, you know? So I did my version of that. So, you know, I found a location, we chose a mansion, we created our own memory of their memory, and then we filmed it. That's amazing, right?
It is amazing. It's fascinating.
So that's how it is. It's like, it's not a documentary, you know, so this is like strands of truth and then romanticism, and then it's like, how does it feel when you first fall in love? How does it feel when you catch somebody's eye and you desire them? It's a feeling. And then you have to take the camera and the performances, and you have to break through the lens and break to the audience the feeling that you had the first time that you felt. So it's really like trying to get back to the audience to be like, yeah, it was like that. I wanted to run home and be alone so I could think about the person I just met. You know, so like that shot when Ivan is like on the bed, thinking about a conversation with his mom. We shot him alone, and it was like, you could tell he was thinking about something that he did with Gerardo, and that's part of falling in love. Is in being alone with the love. So those sort of things found their way into the movie as well.
This has been so fascinating. I thank you both so much, Heidi and Armando. Thank you for your wonderful film. Thank you for being here today. And
thank you.
Please tell your friends out there that this film is available to screen until the end of the festival, which is October 22nd. We'd love to hear from you on social media, #AFIFest. And please join us for more great films and virtual events at fest.afi.com.